You're listening to Rebel Hearts Rising, where we believe your darkest hour holds the key to awakening depth and profound inner wisdom. I'm Tam Burke, and I created this to remind you that when your heart wants to shut down, that's your call to rise, like a phoenix from the ashes. What makes this unique is that every episode is paired with a guided meditation to help awaken your intuition and heal on deeper layers. Together, we'll turn pain into power. This is Tamara Burke reporting to you live from Hot Girl Summer. All kidding aside, I'm super excited to dive into this episode of Rebel Hearts Rising and talk to you about the things that I learned taking what I called a Hot Girl Summer. One of the main things that we're going to talk about in this episode is the mental fantasies that we create and how they can actually really hurt us. The underlying energy of what we're talking about is the grass being greener on the other side. And the truth of the matter is, it doesn't matter what subject we're talking about, the grass is greenest where you water it. And so in taking my Hot Girl Summer, I followed my intuition. I've spent many years developing my intuitive sense, and when I feel a really strong message, I decide to listen. And as you guys might know, whenever I told people that I was taking a little business break this summer, everyone told me, don't lose momentum, you can still work and do it. And it was really interesting to watch people's reactions to taking time off. Something that I deeply believe in is being bored. And in our society, we don't do a lot of that. I have a total phone addiction, constantly checking my apps, checking everything. It's like even sometimes just picking up my phone to look for things. And I wanted to take a really mindful, intentional season where I could be focused on traveling and being present in the summer, having friends come to visit. And it was amazing. I truly enjoyed being able to be really present in my business. And as some of you may know, I'm half German. I have dual citizenship there. And the Europeans are queen at what I call the Hot Girl Summer. Europe essentially closes down and not a lot of work gets done in the summertime because it's meant to relax. You feel the sticky, sweet energy around slowing down and being present and mostly wanting to be near water. But I think it's really important to address the fantasy that happens in taking time off. I've been having a lot of mental fantasies pop recently. I always thought that I wanted an all online business where I could travel as much as I wanted and really have time and location freedom. And while I have really appreciated that this summer, I actually realized that that isn't what I wanted. And instead, what's been feeling good is adhering to a structure, getting up at 6:30 in the morning, which is earlier than I've been getting up before, and finding a kind of structure in my life. How ironic and coincidental is it? No, I think it's ironic that when I took the rules off of myself, I actually really craved having that structure back. Humans thrive in structure. And so something that I want to acknowledge before we go too deep is I've had a lot of privilege this last year. My partner and I sold 2 assets, and that really afforded us the space to take a year to heal from the last few years that we had been through and to really become intentional about the life that we wanted to create for ourselves. I recognize that not everybody gets to do that. And so I want to be really sensitive about this when I say the grass is greenest where you water it, and I have a lot of privilege in saying that. And I've also experienced times of burnout in my life. If y'all know me, I quite literally worked full-time, went to grad school at night, and trained for a marathon. I would literally listen to my textbooks while I ran. And obviously that created burnout for your girl. In that time, not being able to take a break, there were huge detriments to my health. Even in previous years in owning a business, I didn't get to take big breaks because I was needed. And so Matt and I have been joking, we've experienced a kind of gap year in adulthood, which is very rare. And so what I want to offer to you is this. If you don't have the ability to take an adult gap year, here's some of the lessons that I want you to try on in your own life. Structure feels really good. And more so than that, purpose is one of the most important things that we experience in life. There were times this summer that I felt like an astronaut floating in space, but like my tether had been cut and I didn't know where up or down was and what day it was. And while those things are quite delicious for a little bit, long extended periods of time made me realize how important it is to have the container of self. I was talking to a mental health care professional friend, and she was telling me that some of her patients that she they don't have to work. And because of that, she finds that they have some of the most challenges in terms of mental health. When we have too much time to focus on our problems, we quite literally create mountains out of molehills. You know what I'm saying, out of molehills. And it is this idea that if we're too busy and we're ignoring our feelings, that's a problem. If we are a human trash compactor in which we're shoving down feelings and constantly moving from one thing to the next without really processing how we're feeling, life starts to feel heavy. But on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, if all you have is time, your brain wants to fill it with purpose. And so you can begin to worry and create issues out of things that seemingly aren't there. And so there's a really beautiful balance, and that's really the word, the key, the energy that we're talking about here is balance. If you are burning yourself out, it's time to say no to some things and have your own European hot girl summer, even if it's in the middle of fall or winter, to take a sacred pause and to become intentional. That's what this space really allowed me in hot girl summer, is this ability to see things with more clarity. And I've got to tell you, that can sound really shiny, but there's also a little bit of a humbling that comes along with that. As you witness clarity, you might start to see your own dysfunction and the ways that you have been self-abandoning yourself. You guys have been along in the journey if you've been listening to the podcast, and I needed a break from meditation. I had been doing it, and if I'm being totally transparent, I had started lying to myself about the benefits. I find that often happens when we've been doing something for so long that we don't understand what our life was like before it. Perhaps you can relate with exercising or eating healthy or anything that you do regularly. Think about brushing your teeth. At some point you might think, I don't need to brush my teeth. But if you even skip it like once, twice, or 3 times, a few days, things start to get really weird. And so it often is going without something that we realize how good it is when we have it. And in this hot girl summer, I really felt the pain of not having my spiritual practices, of not having my own inner containers. And this is what I talk about with my one-to-one clients in the daily minimum requirements. As you guys might know, these are the minimum things that you've committed to do to take care of yourself. It takes self-care from this really fluffy, intangible, immeasurable idea to something that you can actually measure the own effort that you're putting into yourself. And to stop this kind of like cartwheeling spacesuit, spaceman experience, I came back to my spiritual practices, and damn, did they feel really good. In this hot girl summer, I also got space to witness the stories that I was telling myself about myself. I was having this oddly weird negative lens on a few of the experiences that I had had recently. And I was watching how life was responding to the inner stories that I was creating about myself. And this is why I'm really excited for this kind of frequency program challenge that's being brewed within me right now. That's going to allow me to share some of the things that create the biggest impact in terms of how we view ourselves. Because we know that the way that we view ourselves, the way that we think about ourselves, that energy is a match for other energy. And so when you start to have self-limiting beliefs, that's also the reality that you start to create. And so while Hot Girl Summer was incredible, and I actually hope that every year I have the freedom and ability to take an extended period of time off in the summer, I actually want to remind you how good you might have it and how you might be fantasizing about taking a break, perhaps because you have too many responsibilities, But I actually want to remind you that feeling needed, having those responsibilities, that gives you purpose, that makes you feel really plugged into life. And so I hope that I can offer you this perspective shift so that you can see how wonderful it is, the things that you're already doing. And sometimes it can take us a moment to come back to clarity in ourselves, especially if you've been busy, around what's working. And so I'll leave you with this and a final offer to you around this kind of idea of taking a break. Breaks are super impactful, whether they are long and according to the seasons or whether they are short. And that is also why I find the power of meditation to be something that is so profound. It's because you actually get to weave a hot girl summer into every part of your day, simply by stopping to breathe, to notice how you're feeling, to notice what's coming up for you or stories that you're telling yourself. And so, of course, if you're on burnout and you have the ability to take a break, enjoy. But you have an ability to offer yourself that every single day. And this is where I find that we can really receive the most benefits is when we're making lemonades with the lemons that we're already given. When we're seeing how great things are without necessarily needing to step back from them entirely. And this also relates to the idea of commitment. One of the things that happens in commitment is we vow ourselves towards something. This can be a person, more common in our society, or this can also be patterns and habits that we have. And so what might it look like if you decided to take a daily hot girl break? We've talked about this in other episodes, but what if you simply took 10 breaths a day? A mindful pause at lunch to really anchor in to what you're feeling. Because the more breaks that you build into your daily life, the less that you need these bigger breaks. And what I want to share is the ability to trust yourself, to come back to your own inner voice. And ironically, that's also created through space, through daily breaths, meditation, or bigger breaks like Vipassana, silent retreats, or hot girl summers. But I'm curious if you have the ability to weave into your life this constructive kind of sacred pause that allows you to become a greater witness of yourself. So if this served you, if this helped you, I'd love for you to subscribe, hit the like button so that you know when new videos are uploaded. And as always, if you're on my email list, you get an email every week when an episode comes out. And what's super cool about it is that you get email list exclusive journal questions. Here's the thing. Amazing episodes, awesome meditations, they're only really as valuable as the pause that you take to integrate them. And that's what I want these journal questions to be for you. Next week's episode, I'm super excited about. We're going to have a guest who has been both a friend and a mentor to me. She is super smart, crazy kind, and super funky. And I'm really excited to share her with you because she has been a little secret weapon that I've had along my side this summer. I'll see you then, guys.